greatest co-host in the world. What's 2K99? Get ready to rumble!
The tag team champions of the world.
My brotherly crevasse.
That is the best intro I have ever received.
The world. The Buffalo Jets fan.
Yo.
George Fant is a barely above replacement level, pretty good left tackle.
How can you say
Compare
that when
that
he
to
was
an-
top 3 in sack percentage last year for left tackles?
And I think when in doubt, until you have better reason, go with the optimistic view. And our defensive line is going to be giving a lot of people some trouble.
But yeah, it's got to be, I'm with you. I don't like the Nathan's fries when they're like floppy. It's got to be like done really well, you know? It's very hard to teach 6'3" and 4.3 speed. That's very rare. The talent's there. He's just got to put it together mentally.
Right.
To get on to you, I'm a cheater. Why, hello, it is Jets Chaos. It is Wacky Wednesday. There are 8 days to the draft, and we will have Matt O'Leary tonight. Unfortunately, the Islanders game went into overtime. He's doing his wrap-up of that. There'll be a slight delay, but you will have me, and you know who else you'll have. But let's say hello to some people in the chat real fast. We have Twisted in the chat. What's going on, my brother? We got... not such a bright guy, but he's a good guy. Proud New York Jets fan. Not the brightest guy in the world, but he's a good fan. I like him. He's a good kid. So we'll let him slide, even though it's Taylor Eggs and Ham and she's not part bro. Hank G, what's going on? New York superfan is here. Good to see you. It is good to see Hank G with Harlan having a nice conversation. 808 Jets fan, Rob V. Good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us early. William Sprague, it's always good to see you, my brother. Kent Freeman's here. How's it going, Kent? Good to see you too, man. Snowball is in the house. Good to see Snowball. Ice Force Quest 57 is here. Nathan Colgrove is here. Good to see everybody. And of course, my co-host is here, and we'll give him an introduction right now. Ladies and gentlemen, he's in a good mood and a bad mood at the same time, because good things happen and bad things happen. But in hockey, something very good happened. This is the Ranger rooting. Mets rooting, who won today, by the way. Die-hard Jets fan rooting. 18 hot dogs in 30 minutes eating. Pizza appreciating and loving. Italian chef a la carte in his own kitchen making. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest co-host in the world! Watch 2K99.
You know, Jeremy, I thought, being that I'm a Mets fan, when I had a little bit of too much rosin and sweat on my hand today, that I might be banned for about a week or so, since that's how Major League Baseball goes. But we're not here to talk baseball. We are here for two reasons. We are here to talk New York Jets football with the great Matt O'Leary, and also be Matt O'Leary's therapy session, which he may need after this overtime defeat in Raleigh, North Carolina tonight. So we got a lot of things that we're going to talk with Matt about. We got a lot of questions. We got a lot of opinions here, and we're going to get them all out over the next little while. But just like you said, 8 days away from the draft. For a long time, it's felt like it's going to be 8 months away. But the next draft, the next pivotal draft, the next pivotal time is upon us, and I can't wait for it to go down. And to think that we get to do one more show before it actually happens. Who knows if there'll be some more news between now and then. But for right now, it's a chance to look back on the offseason so far and look forward to what's to come. Good to be with you tonight. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Having a much better day than I've had recently. I've actually felt a lot more uppity today. Recovering each day, feeling better. Really excited about this show tonight, and it's just something I would say that I'm doing pretty good today.
All right.
So that's good. I got dinner on the way, so everybody's going to get to enjoy me eat. Got some.
What's on the menu? Wait, come on, you gotta let us know what's on the menu now.
Oh, there's like this home market with this chef that makes all these nice things, and today he has his special meatloaf and mashed potatoes, and I don't know. Hopefully, it'll arrive at some point tonight. My wife will bring it up for me, so I'm kind of excited about that.
The best meatloaf I ever had. I was not a meatloaf fan for a long time, but it was actually funny. I was like in my mid-20s, and like one of the associate pastors at the church I was going to at the time, he had what he called the Death Star grill. This thing was like I can't begin to tell you how big this grill was, but he actually smoked the meatloaf on the grill. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, meatloaf can be freaking amazing. If you know how to prepare it and you put a little bit of love into it, but also the cooking technique. If you could use some wood chips and smoke it, oh, that's going to make it so much better.
Yeah, I've always loved meatloaf my whole life because my mom really had a great recipe. She used to make us meatloaf, and I loved it. And this place is the first place I found that kind of gives me the gets me all excited. So meatloaf. So it's good stuff. Rob V came in before. I can't find it over here, but I see it on one screen. He said he needs a Jets Chaos t-shirt. I got to get to work on that. I just don't want to go through the whole trouble and sell 2 of them. I wonder how many people would be interested and would actually get a Jets Chaos t-shirt. Something like Bring the Chaos, with like my logo with the Jets on it or whatever. I'm just curious. I'll see if there's any demand for it. I just don't want to. I know what Tigo would say. Tigo would say, just do it.
It needs to be a silhouette of like you, because we have to focus on the head. We have to highlight the head, and there needs to be hot sauce somehow associated with it. Like it needs to say like Jets Chaos on the bottle of hot sauce. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Hank G is saying he needs a review. I can't because my wife has to record me. Like that has to be set up downstairs. But maybe I'll just do a live review here for you. But Buffalo points out quite candidly that it only took 6 minutes, and we're talking about meatloaf in this show. So everybody, I just want to I knew it. I knew Tico would be like, he's such a cheerleader. He's so funny. I knew it. Yeah. I should make a shirt, but I should. So anyway, guys, as we ramp up for Matt O'Leary, he will be here. Those of you, there might be some new people saying, why did this guy say Matt O'Leary is going to be on the show? Matt O'Leary is doing his Islanders thing. He does a hockey thing where he's doing his breakdown. He'll be in here when he's done. He told me initially this would have been the time he would have been here, but unfortunately the game went into overtime, so he'll be running a little bit late, but he'll be here. He'll be joining us. For right now, let's talk about some exciting things. We are 8 days away from the draft. And wow, I'm excited. What's your plans? What are you going to be doing on Thursday night?
Well, Thursday night, I'm going to be hanging out with the Virginia Jets fans group. We're going to be going to AJ Gators, where we watch all our games. We're going to have our usual corner of the restaurant. I expect probably a couple of dozen Jets fans to be there. Now, I will say this. I was very proud of them last year that we had so many people show up. I was highly disappointed that about half the group left about midway through the draft, and we're not there for the now infamous trade up to grab Jermaine Johnson. And that was one thing I told them on the announcements. I said, stay with us. I know we got 2 picks in the top 10, but that may not be all we do tonight. And I don't think it's impossible to think that something else could go down a little bit later on in the draft. Something may be announced. I don't think the Jets are going to have another first-round pick, but I definitely could see a scenario where if things go a certain way, you could see an exchange of first-round picks, a trade back in the first round. But I will be figuring out not figuring out. I will be leaving work an hour early so that I could drive through the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel and get to AJ Gators. I'll probably have a Gator burger with the fried onions, the fried mushrooms, the jalapeno caps, and the barbecue sauce and the pepper jack cheese. I think I might go with the Gator burger, but that is subject to change. Green did the Gates of Hell wings. He's raved many times about how much he loves those Gates of Hell wings, but that's a little bit hot even for me. Not sure if I can handle quite that level of heat. Hey, Snowball. I haven't seen Snowball in a little bit of time now. Do we know the surprise in the Thursday thick of it tomorrow? I didn't even know there was a surprise. I think the surprise is that there is a surprise. As far as I know, do you have any inside information?
I know that Green Bean has some inside information. I don't know if this has to do with the surprise, but I know he was talking about at least Mims, and we could talk about that. There's little leaks that the new offensive coordinator and the new coaching staff isn't thrilled or doesn't love Denzel Mims. He's not off to the best start. He didn't make the best impression. But there's another receiver they're very high on who he hasn't said who. Dom C is reminding us that Connor Hughes is going to be on tomorrow. So I wonder if he'll have some surprise questions or thinks that Connor Hughes is going to shed some information that might be a surprise. But hey, we'll find out. That's the beauty of a surprise. Is as if the Thursday thick of it wasn't exciting and great enough as it was. Anytime you get a guest like Connor Hughes, anytime you got Green Bean talking about surprises, it just adds to what's already the best night on YouTube for a Jets fan.
And the thing is, you ask Connor a question, you ask him a quick question, he will go 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, he could draw out the answers like he's Brian Cashman, who's known for giving long answers in press conferences. So I look forward to this interaction when we got the forum going on, when we got the chat going on, and maybe we'll take some questions for the chat tomorrow night. And I look forward to those super chats, to those questions tomorrow, to hear what the people want to say. It's going to be very interesting. And I hope he hangs around for the whole show. I don't know if it's going to be just 1 hour. Obviously his time is very precious. It's very valuable. I hope we get to get him for the entire time because I've got some trivia for him that I think is going to be really fun. But even if he's not around, I don't know. I still think it's going to be really interesting for the chat. But it will be how do I say this? It's going to tie into Connor Hughes' time as a Jets beat reporter. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I love this. Did anyone watch Sauce Gardner's interview with the Kelseys? I did not. I haven't. I do want to check it out. But I will say this, and I said it last week on Green Bean Show. Sauce Gardner brings a star power that we haven't seen in a really long time. I mean, I know Aaron Rodgers, coming in is going to be this, Hall of Fame quarterback and everything like that. But I'm talking about like Deion Sanders type star power. I mean, just a guy that's confident, funny, personable. Like he's just going to be a tremendous star in the NFL and in this country and all over the world for football. And it's so exciting because he's a New York Jet.
And you know what? I think even he could be even bigger than Darrelle Revis. And I'm not saying he's as good as Revis, better than Revis, or not as good as Revis. But Revis was a little bit more quiet, like his press conferences. He didn't have that outgoing personality that transcended the game. People might know his name, but it's not like they actually felt like they knew Revis. They recognized and respected him. But yeah, just like Rob V said, it's not that sort of, hey, Rob, you and I are on the same wavelength, brother. But he is one of those players who could really transcend. And when you talk about the best players in Jets history, I don't know if you've seen this level of personality. Outside, I would say Namath, and I would throw in Mark Gastineau. And that was a very different era when those two guys played. Yeah. But if you go with this level of, the modern era with the technology, the media, I think that the marketing, that is what could make Sauce as big as any player that the Jets have ever had. I actually saw earlier, he was talking about, he wants to win an MVP. He says, I know there's a 0.000000 1% chance of that happening. And I said, I tweeted it back. I said, that's great. We just won a Super Bowl. We don't care. With all due respect, we don't care about the MVPs. We want the Lombardi Trophy back in Florham Park, New Jersey. A second one, because the other one's gathering hairs on it at this point.
Yeah.
We need to have another one. All of us.
The day that we got Rookie of the Year for defense, for offense, Klecko, Revis, Hall of Fame, it was a great day. It was a lot of fun. It doesn't come close to winning the Lombardi Trophy. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we need. That's what we want. Nothing will come even close to that. In my mind, it's all I care about. It's like, and I'm not even being like down on winning those awards. I was happy like everybody else, but it's like, if it doesn't turn into a Lombardi Trophy, then what's the point? Like, we need the trophy. It's nice to have little accolades along the way. It's nice to have the small victories along the way. Keeps you sane, all this, all that. But, I mean, very few of us, very small percentage of us were alive. I mean, some of them are here, but very few of us actually remember were old enough to enjoy the Super Bowl III. And we want a Super Bowl. We want to feel like what it's like to be the best. We want to be the champions. And to me, that's what I'm focused on.
There isn't anything, and a lot of people will say, well, who are you to even think about a Lombardi Trophy when you haven't made the playoffs in 12 years? The longest streak of any such kind in pro sports. Now that the Kings made it, now they're lighting the beam every night, it seems. I got that is kind of cool. The whole lighting the beam. That is pretty neat what they're doing after those games.
Dude, it's so exciting, and I could go to the middle of my street and see it.
That's awesome, man.
Because I live in downtown Sacramento. I live in town. It's the coolest thing because Sacramento has nothing else. We got like minor league baseball in West Sac. We have like Sac Republic Soccer. We were supposed to go to the MLS and it didn't happen. All we have is the Kings. And, it wasn't that long ago, about 6-7 years now, that we moved to a new arena, to Golden One downtown. And it's so good for the city of Sacramento. We're more like a town. It's a small, it's more of it feels more of a town, Sacramento, small downtown area, and then very residential. But to see that arena that was so empty and so hard to sell tickets and get people to go to games, packed. And now having not only that, but this whole thing about light the beam, where they start chanting, light that beam, light that beam. And people are wearing shirts that say it now. It's an exciting time in Sacramento. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't claim to be a huge NBA fan. I'll always root for the Knicks, but even Jeremy said, not Jeremy, but Nick, he's really a Nets fan, but he actually texted us and said, I gotta admit, it's kind of easy to root for the Kings right now, because it's been so long since they've done anything. I mean, I remember rooting for them back in the day when they were playing the Lakers, like the Weber, Stojakovic, Divac, the other guy, Mike Bibby. Oh, I wanted them to knock off Shaq and Kobe so bad. I really, really did. And unfortunately, it never quite happened. But hopefully they could go on a nice little run here through the Western Conference playoffs. So, yeah, De'Aaron Fox is indeed a beast. He is pretty darn good. William Sprague. I mean, I've already told you this, but my dad took you to Super Bowl III for your 8th birthday.
That's incredible.
Wow. William, how much were tickets? That's my first thought. Oh my gosh. Yeah. How difficult? I wonder how difficult it was on the league when they raised the price to 50 cents a ticket.
Yeah. I saw Nick go up with Nick saying, "Oh yeah, it's easy to root for the Kings." He said something positive about the Kings that I felt good. I've been quiet about it, since I moved here. I was following them when they drafted Bagley and they had Fox, and it was like they were building something. And we were excited, and then I kind of lost excitement because a lot of things didn't pan out except for Fox. And then they got this guy Sabonis or whatever, and it just
Sabonis, right?
Yes,
it just or something.
Yeah, it just totally turns everything around, and it was quiet here. People didn't trust it; they thought they were going to fall apart, and like nobody believed it. Suddenly, it happened, and we're in the playoffs, and it's like, okay, Sacramento, it's time to get excited. We have a real team that's in the playoffs, though. They're into it now. So it was exciting. I was at my friend's house, actually at Google Glenn's house. I was with some other SAC people watching that game, the first game on Saturday night, and we were just going crazy, just going absolutely crazy. So it was pretty
Nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be. It's a super exciting time to be a New York sports fan. I mean, you got all 5 teams in the playoffs right now. Yankees are doing well. Mets are doing pretty dang well. I mean, winning series from the Dodgers is no small task. And the NFL draft's coming up. I mean, but it is pretty amazing when you think about it. This graphic was put up. When you look at the number of years it's been since the New York teams have made the playoffs. Every basketball team, every baseball team, every hockey team, every MLS team, the freaking WNBA team, all made the playoffs this year. That just leaves one team. And it's the one right above my head. 12 years.
We need the Jets to go to the playoffs now.
At least.
It's just that simple. And it's crazy, but but it is a good thing to point out. Like, there's a turning. Like, Boston went nuts for so long now. They've had the whole Red Sox breaking their curse in World Series, and the Patriots and the Celtics, and the Bruins, and they had so much. It's like about time. It's like I feel like things are turning for New York. Not that we're pulling for the Giants, and Ranger fans don't care about the Islanders or Devils, and the Devil fans don't care about the Rangers or but still, the fact that all these local teams are doing well, and it's an exciting time for the area. It's exciting for New York that in every sport, New York teams are starting to rise, and maybe it's like a contagious thing. Maybe it'll be good for all New York fans, regardless of who your teams are, that it's finally turning around for New York, and we're going to finally, be competitive everywhere in every sport. I think it's a great thing.
I mean, if you're not a Yankees, Giants, or Devils fan, then what are we talking about here? I mean, that is a good level of pain. About that. Yeah. Welcome back to the playoffs after 5 years. It's nice to have you back. And let's see if your boys can level up to the men who absolutely ran you out of your own rink in game 1. I'm sure it'll still be a long series, but we got the Jets in common and we got the Mets in common. So there you go.
Hey, but at the end of the day, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. If you guys want to use super chats to pump up your Islanders and your Devils, you go ahead and do that. All the respect in the world, because hey, the games will play out on the ice, and may the best team win, right? But speaking of that, guys, I promised you a celebrity. I promised you a star.
But instead we have... I'm just kidding.
I'm bringing to you the garlic parm wing eating, Islander rooting, New York Mets rooting, New York Jets rooting, best quarterback tryouts on film for an NFL team, submitting the greatest YouTube content provider in the world. Matt O'Leary.
Oh, thank you. That intro made my night after what was a shitty end to what was a good hockey game. But I am so happy to be on. Sorry for the delay. Of course, the game, I'm like, listen, I could come on. I just have to do a post-game podcast first. And the game goes to overtime, so I'm running even later than I thought I was. But appreciate you guys having me on.
We're happy to have you. Do you need a couple of minutes to just vent, to let it out right now, or do you feel like you're ready to go right into the Jet stuff? Your choice.
I just quickly, it's astonishing how bad the refereeing has been in the NHL playoffs. Not just in this series, but just in general. It's a joke. And for those who don't know, the game-winning goal in overtime, the refs missed a clear penalty, a high stick to Scott Mayfield. He wasn't available for comment after the game because he was seeking medical attention. So no call on the play, though, and it ended the game. So a little frustrating. That's all.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks when like there's a blatant call and you're like you feel you've been robbed and
Yeah.
so much on the line too.
Oh, good. Nope.
Got to take these next two at home, and to be honest, I hope they do.
Yeah, it's not a series until the home team loses, right? So just take care of business at home. I'm going on Friday. Friday's my birthday, so hopefully they get back in this series for me.
Cool.
Very,
Yeah.
very
My
nice.
biggest thing was, I actually, believe it or not, I actually did a preview video on this series. I think about 12 people have seen it so far. But one of the things that I talked about, I said one of the biggest concerns I had was that the Hurricanes are such a good forechecking team. And that's something that I watched a lot of, especially going to, actually it was that game 7 last year with the Rangers. And I was concerned that the Isles, especially without Romanoff, were not going to be mobile enough on defense to get the puck out, and the Hurricanes were going to cause turnovers, and that would lead to those really good scoring chances. And I feel like we've been seeing that somewhat so far.
Yeah, I think that's a totally fair take on it. The Hurricanes are such a good team. They don't give up anything defensively too. They swarm you. They're a frustrating team to play against, and you can't, hurt yourself and take dumb penalties. And unfortunately, that's kind of been the story through too.
Hey man, we were just talking about how crazy it is. The Jets are really the only team left. I mean, the Mets too. Well, the Mets made the playoffs, right? So
They made the playoffs last
so
year.
we got every team in the tri-state area making the playoffs now in every sport, and we got to get A-Rod in and just fill the gauntlet and get the Jets got to get in.
Yeah, I don't like seeing everyone's playoff drought, or if who's not in it, it's like 1 year if they made it last year, or the Giants just made it, everyone, and then it's like a long list, and then the Jets at 12.
Yeah,
embarrassing. It's been embarrassing for a long time, and you're right. Just get this Aaron Rodgers thing done. And I don't know about you guys, or if you mentioned this earlier on the show, I cannot take another day of just dumb Twitter rumors. I need this thing to end like now. Please break it at midnight for all I care. I can't do another day of arguing with Packers fans on Twitter, or just seeing that like some slapdick team is now in on Aaron Rodgers. I can't do it anymore, guys.
So let's go back to the day you're holding the champagne, you're live, the Pat McCaffrey show is on, Aaron Rodgers is talking. I'm watching it, by the way, on my cell phone. I got you on the computer. I'm on your channel with you.
Yep.
At one point, I'm shushing you to shut up. I'm like, shh. Just so you know, because I want to hear what he's saying. And you're saying you're doing your job, right? You're hosting your show. But I'm telling you to be quiet because I'm nervous listening to what A-Rod is saying. Did you think at that point, if I would have came to you and said 8 days before the draft, April 20th or so, the deal's not done yet, we're just sitting here waiting for it to happen, would you have believed it? What were you thinking at that time as far as the timeline of the deal taking place?
No, not at all. I thought maybe like a week, something like that. They'd talk for a little bit, get things ironed out, and then they'd have it figured out. And then the owners' meetings were coming up. I was like, all right, that's perfect. Owners' meetings, that's a perfect time for it. And that comes and goes. And you're like, well, is this ever going to happen? And like the draft is the next cutoff point. And I think it makes sense from like the Packers' perspective to get the picks and try to help Jordan Love for this year. So like, I don't know why you'd want to wait beyond that, but it's no, I would not in a million years. I thought for sure this thing would have been wrapped up well in advance by now.
Now, with every day that goes by, do you have a little bit of doubt creeping in your mind? I mean, we are Jets fans. We are used to disappointment. With every day that goes by, are you having some doubt in your mind that it could happen? Or do you really feel that time is on the Jets side as opposed to the Packers?
I don't, not yet. I think if we get close to training camp is when I would start to really panic. Hopefully it doesn't go that long, because again, I don't know if I could do another 3 months of this, but I think that's when really like it needs to happen by. So I don't think I'll start panicking until we're like late June time.
Yeah. Now, do you think, I think the only way the interruption before pick 13 would happen is if there was some kind of pick swap. There was a rumor today that Seattle's getting involved and we might go down to 20, and there was a whole crazy package on Twitter. But do you think, what do you think the probability is? I would think, and I'm guessing more day two. Day two comes, we got up to like close to the 42, 43. that we get that interruption, doot, 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 and the trade comes in, and there's some trade giving Green Bay one of those 2 picks. Like, do you think there's a real chance that's going to happen on the Friday?
Yeah, there is a chance that it happens on either one of those days. I mean, I think Hollywood Brown and AJ Brown, both those guys got traded on draft day. I think so. We've seen it before. I saw someone I can't remember where it was, but someone said like, "Oh, do you think it'd be like the Jets are on the clock and then like the trade will come up and then it'll come up packed?" I don't think it's going to get announced that way. I think there's too many moving parts for it to get to the point where it's like you're actually on the clock. Let's strike a deal. I think it would be before, they get on the clock at 42, and it would be ironed out. But that'd be pretty cool to have it on one of those days so that we all react live on the show. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
I still think if this happens, if it gets announced, it has to be on night 1 of the draft when it's got all the attention, when Goodell's on the stage, so he can announce it. The Jets and Packers have made a trade. Boo! That's exactly how they would have to. They probably have it working out. We know it. We know it's just 2nd round picks next year, but announce it Thursday night, would you? So yeah, I still think they will find a way to milk it for all it's worth.
Just a little bit of gratitude to Small Heat Jets Petro. Thank you for the super chat, and shout out to you Devils, man. Be proud.
You got some good young talent on that team. There you go.
Be proud of your team, man. And thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, so I know Adam has a ton of questions for you, Matt.
I wonder if that's a cue that means dinner is on its way to Jeremy right now. But
it might be on its way up. I heard the doorbell ring.
That was very subtle. Okay, so let's go back a little bit to free agency. Now, as we know, the Jets did not have a whole heck of a lot to work with. We're going to do like a state of the Jets right now. So if we look at major moves, the Jets brought in Alan Lazard and basically kept a lot of players. Lost a few players like Shepard, Rankins, Robinson, Herbig. How do you feel like, how would you grade free agency? And considering what they had to work with, when you say they met expectations, exceed expectations, fell short of expectations, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the middle for me. I'm pretty satisfied with what they did based on the circumstances. There's some things I didn't like, and we'll get into that. But I love Alan Lazard. That was someone that I had circled for the Jets because I thought he'd be perfect for this offense. And they need a bigger body receiver who can go up and get the football. They need someone who could block really well in this system. He does that. He does all the little things right, and obviously has the connection with Aaron Rodgers, which is the added bonus there. I like Mecole Hardman as the Braxton Berrios replacement. I think he has much more upside, and he's an extremely explosive player. Losing Elijah, I don't know what the plan is to replace him. So I think that one's still TBD, even though I didn't love the return in the trade. Yes, you get a 2nd rounder, but you're giving up your 3rd, and it kind of just evens out to a 3rd round pick value wise. So I thought that was a little bit on the tough side, but overall, they brought back Quincy Williams, someone who they really like on that defense. Chuck Clark, I think, is a really underrated part of this offseason. He should be an immediate upgrade to that safety room. And they're just kind of continuing to plug away and add some depth. I think, they should sign a veteran center. Ben Jones is still sitting there. And, maybe a couple more smaller ads, whether it be an interior defensive line. Al Woods is still kicking around. Bring back Quan Alexander, something like that, and then head into the draft. And I think this roster is really coming along at that point.
Yeah, it's definitely at the point now where if anything happens, it's going to be post-draft. I think the Jets have a bunch of different moves in mind, but it all kind of depends on what they do in the draft and who they can possibly bring in. But there are 3 players on this roster in particular, free agent signings, that have been rumored to be going. Like, the fan base has been very divided on these guys, whether they were going to stay, whether they were going to go, but currently they're all here. And that's Carl Lawson, Corey Davis, Jordan Whitehead. Now, if you had to go with this, do you think all 3 of those players will be on the roster come August? Do you see, and if somebody were to go, who would you bet on not being on this roster come opening day?
Yeah, that was really, I think it's surprising to see all those guys still here. I think Carl Lawson will still be here. I think the one I would be most surprised with is Corey Davis, just because there's been he feels like the one that was okay. It was a cut candidate, free up the $10 million. maybe he's in the Aaron Rodgers deal. But they signed Alan Lazard, which I think most assumed would be your Corey Davis replacement. I think I'd be the most surprised if he's still here in August. But granted, you'd still have to add another wide receiver if you decide to move on. I will say, though, I don't love the idea of a Chuck Clark and Jordan Whitehead safety duo. I think they're redundant. They both are kind of more your prototypical strong safety. So I think they need someone who can play back a little bit as that deep free safety. But I'd be most surprised if Corey's still here. I definitely think Carl's sticking around, and Whitehead feels like a coin flip.
No, it definitely could be. All right, now, sort of that going on. Do you really? What do you think about the whole Nathaniel Hackett thing with these rumors that are apparently coming out? He may not be a big Denzel Mims fan. I mean, do you think there's really gas to the fire on that one, or is this just a matter of? Is this just people making something out of nothing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how we could find that one out. Maybe that's the case, but I thought everything that I've read up on him is he does prefer bigger receivers. So maybe he doesn't want to work with the project of Denzel, because I think at this point he needs to be revived a little bit in his career. But the talent's there, the size and the speed is there. So I think I don't know if I really buy that one all that much, that he doesn't want to work with him or isn't really a big fan of him.
I got a question. Did you think when Saleh talked about Whitehead, because I thought Whitehead was definitely a release candidate to save $7 million, but especially after the trade for Clark. But Saleh came when he did his press conference. He said that he was super excited for Whitehead to be year 2 of the system. And it sounded pretty convincing to me. Were you not? Do you take that with a grain of salt? Do you think that's just coach talk? Did it sway you at all?
Not really, because I feel like we've heard him say similar things about other players, and then they're not around, they're traded away, they have a smaller role. Maybe he really feels that way. I don't know who would be the free safety in that spot then. I guess it'd be Chuck Clark, because he has more experience playing back than what Jordan Whitehead does. But again, just from my own personal view on it, I think it'd be a little redundant. But who knows? Maybe they do really believe in him.
It's possible. By the way, we do have a little breaking news that's going to affect your series, I think, quite a bit. Rob Brindamore has announced that Teuvo Teravainen fractured his hand and will require surgery.
Yeah,
so he is likely out for the foreseeable future.
Wow.
So yeah, they have lost a lot of forwards in this series. So it's a little bit of sometimes. Hey, we get breaking news. Last year was C.J. Mosley, signing, and we all got to break that news together with Nick. And now it's hockey injuries. So how the tide has turned. So I want to talk a little bit about the draft. Now, there's about certain prospects, about your thoughts on certain players. So I'm going to start with kind of a big picture here. If you could put any prospect, and regardless of the round, okay, if you could put any prospect in this draft on the Jets on this team, who would it be?
Ooh. So could it be someone who's going to go earlier than 13, or does it have to be realistic?
Realistically, who they could get, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with Paris Johnson, because I want to really shore up that offensive line for Aaron Rodgers. And while they did bring Dwayne Brown back, and while I'm rooting for Mekhi Becton to be healthy and play a full season, I think it's imperative that they continue to add to this offensive line, and getting a bookmark tackle in someone in Paris Johnson, who's my number 1 tackle in this class. I like the top 3 a lot, but he, I think, is plug and play, ready to go from day one. I would just love to come away with a tackle that you can forget about for a decade. I think we overlook just how good it was to have DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who missed 1 snap in his career in 10 years, like just absolutely epic. And, we saw, unfortunately, what offensive line injuries can do to a team, and bringing in someone like that, who I think is the best offensive lineman in this class, will be huge for this team.
Okay, so what about Paris Johnson do you like in particular, as opposed to Broderick Jones or Peter Skoronski or even on Anton Harrison? What stands out to you about Paris?
I think it's the athleticism for me. I just like how he moves in space. I think he has good size. Skoronski's like he's very fine tuned, and he's a close second. The edge I think is that Skoronski with the smaller arms might have to move inside, and there's some worry that he might have to kick inside to guard. I don't. I think he'll be a tackle, but just with Johnson, I think he's the one who's the most pro ready to come in and play right away.
And there's no doubt the Jets are in a plug and play situation. This is not, you could talk about a project a little bit later on in the draft, but when you have a team that has aspirations of making a move right now, you need somebody who is, used to playing, in that zone blocking scheme as opposed to the gap blocking scheme. And that is pretty important. Now, I can tell you, Anton Harrison has not done a whole lot of that. I don't think Skoronski has either. I think Johnson has a little bit more. But from what I could tell with most of these tackles, I think a lot of them have been doing the gap blocking as opposed to the zone blocking. So to me, it's up to the scouting staff to really figure out which one of these tackles can best fit. But, maybe they are just looking at them. I wonder if they even have a clear favorite, or it's like whoever falls to them, it's like, okay, we're good with this or this or this. And, maybe if they don't have a favorite, they would be open to trading down. Now, would you like to see the Jets trade down if Johnson isn't there? Would you like to see them trade down? Do you think it would make sense? And if so, could you imagine a scenario where somebody would want to come up and grab the Jets pick? Because remember, to trade down, you need somebody else to trade up. Can you envision a realistic scenario where that happens?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like everyone says, "Oh, trade down," and like that's so much easier said than done. Yeah, maybe someone wants to move up for somebody. There could be a run on corners at that point. Maybe someone wants to move up and get JSN if he's moving down and makes it past the Texans for some reason. There is a scenario, but I don't think you move back crazy far. Maybe is it Pittsburgh's at 19? I think somewhere around that. I could see them moving back maybe 5 or 6 picks. And then at that point, I think you pivot and you're either going for, Wright, who's more of a right tackle plug and play guy from Tennessee, or someone who I really like a lot and would be okay with taking, even though it's not an offensive lineman, Kalijah Cansey, because I think putting him next to Quinnen Williams would just be so much fun.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you. If we weren't to go offensive tackle, now I don't think all 3 tackles are going to go in the first 12 picks. I really don't. I expect at least 3 quarterbacks, at least 2 cornerbacks as well. But if that were to happen, where would you want to go with the 13th pick? Is there a player you would want, or would that be a scenario where you're open to trading down?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Kalijah. So if you're not going offensive line, that would be the position that I would go. I understand those who make the argument for JSN, especially you don't bring in Odell. Elijah Moore's not on the team, so if they were to take JSN, I could obviously see that and sell myself on that. But my choice for not an offensive tackle would be Kalijah. Now, you could probably move back and get him, but I view him as a top 20 pick. So if they just stayed put and ended up taking him at 13, I don't view that as like, oh my God, they reached on this guy. I would be comfortable taking him there too.
And don't you think that just the Sauce Gardner pick last year shows that JD is a value guy? Like if he has Kalijah, high on his board, and his 2 favorite tackles that he has higher, let's say there are 2 he has higher, are gone. I mean, he hasn't shown that he's a GM that's willing to just say, I'm not going to let just positional need dictate what I do. I'm going to take the best player on the board.
Yeah, to an extent. I think Sauce is the good or the best example of that, because a lot of people were saying like, oh, Sauce, like me personally, love the prospect, but I just didn't think that they would take a corner that high. I figured they'd go with, a more premium position like edge, and they were able to get Jermaine Johnson later, so it all worked out perfectly. We know how the story ended, but that's a good point that Jeremy brings up, is that you do oftentimes feel like he goes with the best guy there and traded up for Breece Hall. Like that's kind of it's rare that you see a team move up and then draft a running back like that. So they see the guys that they like and want and really attack from there. And yeah, I'm with you. I would be completely okay if they did that.
Pardon me. Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. Cansey's one of those guys who just keeps flying up the board. I mean, it's right around this time where certain guys are going up and certain guys you can't even find them on the draft list anymore. You see guys like Jordan Battle fall, but you see guys like Elijah Cansey just fly up. But at the end of the day, it's up to the scouting staff and the GM to know the things that we all don't. And I think Joe Douglas has earned enough cachet with his ability to draft and the staff with Rex Hogan and Chad Alexander that they now know the players that they need that Robert Saleh wants. So as each draft has gotten a little bit better, it's gotten me that much more excited. But just to go back to the draft position point of it, and this is more of like a reminder to all of us. It's not, the draft is not always about taking your worst position and making it okay. Sometimes it's about taking an okay position and making it great. Because the Jets were okay at cornerback 2 years ago, but they knew. I think most of us could acknowledge that Sauce Gardner probably had the highest floor of anybody in this draft, and we saw what happened. I think I was one of the few people who was. I think it was me, Ryan, and one other random guy somewhere who were thrilled over that draft pick. Now that one worked out, but let's go with this. So, if the Jets were picking 13 with realistic targets, considering positions that they realistically need, who would be a player where if they drafted them, you would throw up your hands and say, what are we doing here? Who would disappoint you if the Jets drafted them at 13?
Nolan Smith.
I knew you'd say it.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around taking a guy like that in the top half of the draft. Now, later in the first round, if another team wants to take a shot on him, I get it. I would understand if he went late, like 30 to the Eagles, something like that. But specifically for the Jets, he's a small edge rusher. He's probably a 3-4 outside linebacker. With the Jets don't play a 3-4. They're a 4-3 team. I don't think he can play with his hand down. I understand that he has like this insane athleticism, but his size is also such a massive outlier. I wouldn't get that pick at all for the Jets.
Okay, so now if we go into the second round where the Jets have 42 and 43. Now, who do you have your eye on? First of all, I'll ask, this will be like a two-parter. Number one, do you think the Jets will keep both those picks? And then if they do, who do you have your eye on for 42 and 43?
I don't. I think one of them is going to Green Bay in the Rodgers trade. I do think that gets done. I know John Michael Schmitz is everyone's favorite. I'm not convinced he's going to be there, but he would be my favorite target. Joe Tippmann, the center from Ohio State, is also someone who would be pretty high up on my list. I don't know if they would go linebacker, but I love Jack Campbell, so I can't go without bringing up Jack Campbell. But my guess, I really would be stunned if they don't come away with one of the premier centers in this class. So I think that's where they would go with 42 or 43.
And you know what was so interesting? I was reading some stuff that Nanny had put out, and he talked about what the Jets are really valuing in their offensive linemen. And he talked really about the explosiveness. And one of the ways you measure that, I know this is a little bit weird, but the broad jump, because it really measures your explosiveness. And he really came away saying that Whippler and Stromberg were about the most explosive centers, way ahead of Joe Tippmann. Schmitz wasn't necessarily exceptional at anything, but he was very well-rounded. But it was interesting that his analysis, it really wasn't that high on Tippmann, considering what the Jets want from their offensive linemen. Also going back to that zone blocking and gap blocking, Tippmann's a lot more used to the gap blocking side of it. So my personal thought on this, I think if the Jets are going after a center, and I do believe they will, I could see a scenario. If I had to bet on a scenario, I'm going to say Schmitz is already gone, but the Jets take Whippler with one of those picks and afterwards sign Ben Jones to a one-year deal and use that 1 year to develop Luke Whippler. What do you think?
I like that. I like that a lot. Whippler he's a local kid too, right? He's from Jersey, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would totally be down for that. And then, Jones was a little banged up with concussions last year. So if he was to get injured, I think you'd feel comfortable with a guy like him coming in to play midseason if he had to.
What's also nice about that scenario is that while Whippler is developing as a center for your future, you're adding depth because Whippler has the versatility to come in at guard if you need. So if there's some injuries on the line, and you have to shuffle people around and put AVT back to the outside, suddenly you have a guy, Whippler, that can come in and play guard and might be able to do it at a good level.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And talking about centers, let's talk about one other name that's a lot of people are very high on him, but a lot of us aren't really sure where he fits, and that's Steve Avila. He has been flying up the draft boards, especially since Alabama. I think it was all because Green Bean and Dom got to interview him. I think that's what really sent his stock into orbit. But what are your thoughts on it? I mean, he's 330 some pounds, but people are talking about some want him as a center, some want him as a guard. Do you think he's a possible target for the Jets? And do you see him more as a center or a guard? What are your thoughts on Avila?
I like him, but I see him more as a guard, and I don't think the Jets are going to be looking for a guard in this draft. I mean, you have AVT, who I think they would like to kind of just stick at guard and like let him be there and not bounce him around from guard to tackle. And then you pay Lincoln Tomlinson a bunch of money, and he's going to be here. So I'd be surprised if they took him because I think he projects more as a guard. I know he has played center, but I have some of the other guys in the class ahead of him.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? There is only one center in the NFL this year, and it was the one who played for Washington, who weighs 335 pounds. It's not very easy for a center to play at that high a weight. So, yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I see him much more as a guard. Hey, I want to send a quick note to the chat. If there's any questions that you have for us or for Matt, if there's any players or prospects you want us to talk about, we want to get your feedback also. This is your show too. So put some comments, and not to steal anybody's line, but super chats do cut the line. We don't have anything to give away like Green Bean did if you give us $5, but you'll feel good knowing that you're giving to a great cause.
My audience, they're too busy talking about food. So
yeah, exactly. They're going towards Jeremy's meatloaf budget and my hot dog budget when I eat them again.
I love it.
Yeah, I think I got to get some of those Nathan's pretzel dogs. I don't buy a lot of hot dogs, but those pretzel dogs during hockey season, they remind me of being like in the Garden or the Coliseum or now the RBC Arena since PNC, so I'm not that far from Carolina. But question for Matt, when are we going to Montana?
Oh, I would like tomorrow. Do you got time? I'd love to, man. It's beautiful out there. I would love to go. I haven't gone yet, but I mentioned it on the show. I forget. I think I was talking about like arguing with people on Twitter. I'm like, I'm like this close to just like disappearing and like living on a farm in Montana.
Montana is beautiful. And, isn't that the land in Nebraska, Montana? I think Montana specifically for fly fishing.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's
just put me in a stream and I won't even watch the Jets ever again.
Yeah.
I'll just quit everything. That's it.
Okay, clip that. Hey, maybe if they need an area scout, you could take care of all the Montana schools.
Perfect.
Yeah. I can see the potential there. I could definitely see that one. Okay, so how about do you have your eyes on any sleepers, any day 3 guys that are sticking out to you? We're talking about the first round nonstop, but in that 4th, 5th, 6th round, who are some of the targets you got in mind?
Ooh, there's a few, but one that continues to come up for me in mock drafts is Dorian Williams, the linebacker. I think he has really good coverage skills, and unfortunately for the Jets, we've seen our linebackers get torched in coverage, especially trying to keep up with tight ends. And I think he has the speed and the athleticism to do that. So that's one of my favorite day 3 guys.
That's a good. That's a good one. I'm actually going to give you all a little bit of inside information. So, as you may know, I track all of the Monday night mocks that we do with Green Bean, and I believe I have to go through these numbers really quick. But there are only 3 players that we have drafted 5 times or more: John Michael Schmitz, Luke Whippler, and Dorian Williams.
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. The love we have for Dorian Williams is just crazy. But I will say this, one player, all the mock drafts we did, and I think we did about 15 or 16 last year. one player we never picked, we never mocked, was Garrett Wilson. Not one time did we mock Garrett Wilson to the Jets. Which is amazing to me. And sorry to disappoint you with this one, Matt, but we have not yet projected. Maybe this is a good sign. We haven't projected Paris Johnson to the Jets yet. So that may mean that he's on his way.
There we go. Love that.
There we
Yeah,
go.
well, Paris Johnson is usually not available in the mocks when it gets
Nope.
up to our pick. But it's funny, it's not in the system. But whenever we do like the live mocks where everybody's picking for other teams, and when I see it like on ESPN and all those kind of things, Paris Johnson sometimes slips to the Jets a lot more often, but it just never does on like PFN or PFF in those mock drafts.
It's rare, but every time it's an easy no-brainer pick for me.
Yeah, most definitely, because I don't see us bringing back Quan personally. I mean, I expect us to play a lot of 4-2-5. And you know what? When you have CJ and you have Quincy, that's going to be your primary linebacker use. I still am hoping Jamian Sherwood's going to get a little bit of playing time, but you know what? I think Quan's going to come back to the Jets if he has absolutely no other options for starting. But yeah, I wouldn't bet on Quan coming back. Oh, and of course, speaking of resigning players, guys, how excited are we about Cedric Ogbueye coming back to back up the offensive tackle position? Oh my gosh, break out the champagne now.
Depth. It could be OT 4 or 5.
Yep, that's fine. He could be like the new Mike Remmers. How about that?
Sure.
Pretty much on that. Yeah, that was our starting tackles against Miami. It was Cedric and Mike Remmers, I believe, to close out the season.
He's a depth piece.
Yeah. I mean, the year before we had, I think it was 9 safeties, and this past year it was offensive tackles. So now, as far as is that one of those rainbow cookies? Is that what that is?
Rainbow.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay. I was always kind of partial to the S cookies, the sesame seed cookies. So I always like them like kind of simple, but yeah. Sadly, my ex was very much into the rainbow cookies. That's one reason it's hard for me to look at them anymore, but that's okay.
Well, a lot of rainbow cookies are made with what was that, Maripon or whatever, the almond paste. So they're gluten free. So there are lots of gluten-free rainbow cookies in the world that I know O'Leary probably takes advantage of.
I do. My favorite gluten-free bakery here on Long Island, Bare Naked Bakery. They got the goat.
Oh, right.
One.
That's right. That's right. The gluten-free. Okay. Dane, I'm just going to ignore your comment since you say I ignore you all the time. So hey.
I've had him up here forever. This is a Jets kind of thing to do, right? Like instead of just taking a free safety, we're going to take a cornerback and convert them to free safety. What do you think of that?
I mean, they tried to do it before, right? Wasn't that the plan with Pinnock? And then
and then the Giants used them as a free safety.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my preferred plan. I'd rather draft someone who's like kind of played that position, and you don't have to have a project out of it. But it wouldn't be the most shocking thing because they've tried to do it before.
Right.
And until he's off the team, people are going to scream for Bryce Hall to do that exact same thing, to be converted from cornerback to free safety. And believe me, I like Bryce. A lot of us like Bryce. I know Green Bean does. I would love for it to happen, but it's looking like a pick that's going to work out for two good years. But I don't know. This is going to be an interesting season if he can contribute to this team. Dom C. Keely Ringo is a perfect fit to turn into a free safety. Yes, I believe I mocked him. I think it was to Pittsburgh when we did our mock draft on Sunday. I had him going over there. I thought that was I don't know if it was Pittsburgh. It was one of those teams. It was them or whoever it was. But I remember picking Ringo over there.
But he's going too early for us. He's not going to be a late round guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ringo. Yeah, Ringo's going to probably go, I'd say, early second, most realistically. Let's see. Yeah. Let's take a look at the chat, see if they got anything else here for us. Yeah, Matthew Smith. Should we cut Bryce Huff? Yeah, Matthew is Matthew is just as anti Bryce Huff as Jets Forever is pro Zach Wilson. It's quite disturbing.
Why?
You get attention. To get attention.
You think it's just to get attention?
Why else? I mean, put it this way: there's nobody that I've ever seen who is as anti-Bryce Huff as this guy is. So it's rather entertaining at this point. So,
well, he should be tarred and feathered.
Yeah, in a loving way, of course. You know, we'd only do that because we love you.
No, in a hateful way. I'm saying a hateful way.
The funny thing is, I was thinking about it. There's a possibility if he was there when we picked at 13, because he could play in the middle too, and not just on the edge. Luke Van Ness is not. It's not impossible that he takes Luke Van Ness.
That'd be. I mean, I like him as a prospect, but that would. I don't know. Would they do that? Would they go edge?
I don't
Hard
know.
for me to imagine that. I mean, not unless, like, say, a Will Anderson dropped. I think that's the only conceivable way.
It's far fetched. I'm just saying, you know.
He's a good player. I mean, we can't be upset about the player you're getting, but
No, I mean, to me though, there's still other things that you have to fix. In that case, Matt, let me put it this way: if you had to construct your starting offensive line for day one of the season, give it to me. Left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Who are we lining up?
okay. So I'll go either. My dream is Paris Johnson at left tackle, but let's say he's not there. I think Broderick Jones will be there. So I'll go Broderick at left tackle. Left guard will be Tomlinson, Ben Jones at center, AVT, and Mekhi Becton.
I could get behind that. And I'll tell you what, if we don't take I don't think Broderick's going to get past 14. I don't think the Patriots are letting him slip. I really, really don't. Even though I think they need a wide receiver, I don't think there's any way they let Broderick get past them.
See, I think what's going to happen is it's going to end up that we do end up trading back. Not too much. I think we're going to end up with Darnell White. I think we're going to have Becton on the left side, Darnell Wright on the right. We'll have AVT, Lakin Tomlinson, and then we'll have Jones at center, unless it's the center that we draft if we don't sign Jones, but like one of those two. But that's how I see our offensive line. I just got this feeling that Darnell White might end up a Jet.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it could be. The thing is, from what I remember, he's really projected as a right tackle. Like a lot of people say he doesn't really have like the footwork to really play left tackles. So,
which is true.
I mean, that sounds, obviously tackle is important. Both tackle spots are important, but yeah, to get a guy who you know is just going to be a right tackle, I don't know.
You lock that down.
get it.
Becton, Becton could play left tackle. Dwayne Brown, got you backed up there. Max Mitchell will come back. He could be the backup for right tackle. So like. Yeah, AVT could jump anywhere.
Yep, he's the Swiss Army knife. I mean, my expectation is kind of like Matt. I expect him at right guard, but and then you can move him around if absolutely need be. Snowball, thoughts on DeJuan Jones? I feel like he's been a little bit under the radar lately. It's a little bit strange. What do you like? He didn't allow a single sack this year, but he definitely is a right tackle. If Darnell Wright's a right tackle only, DeJuan Jones, it should just say, instead of a number, it should say RT for right tackle, because that's exactly where he's going to be, and he's probably going to do it well. He's got good initial quickness. Maybe a little, but he's meant for more of the gap and power schemes. I don't know if he's a fit for the Jets, because like we said, they like to run the zone, and Jones, I don't think, is necessarily suited for that spot. So good prospect in my mind, but not necessarily a Jet.
Why do I get the feeling that we're just going to be shocked on draft night? I'm going to be sitting there in the back room or whatever, moderating and watching these guys in the panel go. And I just think I'm going to have this front row seat from behind backstage of just craziness. Like, I think that when 13 comes, I just have this feeling something wild is going to happen, that it's not going to be what we think. I'm just getting this feeling it's going to be a crazy night.
And we'll see who's off camera when it happens, because it seems like every time on those streams when something big happens with the draft, one of the three of you is off camera.
Ryan in the bathroom for the AVT trade.
That was my favorite. And then you pull out the megaphone. It's still one of my favorite moments, like in the history of like any type of like sports YouTube show. We
have fun. We have fun with it. The draft streams are my favorite. They're long. I mean, it's 3 long days of streaming, but it's the best. It's so much fun.
Let's go into that a little bit more. How do you get through such a long show?
Well, you talk about who has the best French fries, because that last year on Saturday, we were on and I was on. I just spent like the last 2-3 hours. There was no jet fix. We were just messing around. And Ryan said something that, and I'll never forget. Me and O'Leary looked at each other, even though you can't see each other on their screens. Everyone was joking that our faces turned to each other because we said, "Who has the best French fries?" And Ryan said, "Burger King."
Burger King.
We were just like,
His worst take of all time, and he's got some stinkers, but that's the worst.
That is a sad take right there. I couldn't even tell you the last time I ate at a Burger King. Okay, they went way downhill. They went way downhill.
It was a funny. It was a funny moment. It was a funny moment. But anyway, it's like hey, they got that desperate. They said, let's just bring chaos on for like 2 hours.
For the food. You gotta have fun, especially on day 3, because they had no picks in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. So we were just trying to run out the clock here, and we're just talking about the craziest things. But that's when we go off the rails, like that's half the fun of it.
Yeah.
And if you're ever running out of stuff to say, the chat will take care of it. It's probably easy when you have 5,000 people in the chat at a time.
During the Aaron Rodgers one of the day I was on for like 6 hours, we were waiting for something to go through and it never did, obviously, but the chat was just giving me we were doing like Q&A. We were talking like music takes, like this band over versus this band, which one do you like, or this artist versus this artist, and like I don't know, that's fun for when you have to pass the time in a situation like that.
This is an interesting question from Snowball, because I have many times, I don't know if I was the first to do it, but I wasn't copying anyone. But I remember the first thing I thought when I saw Cody Mock was Matt O'Leary on steroids. So I'm curious.
With a few less teeth.
Yeah.
What do you think of Cody, Matt?
An offensive lineman with no front teeth has to bump him up at least a 1-round grade. So I think he's probably like a day 2 guy, but I would take him in the top 15 just because he has no 2 front teeth, which is hilarious. But I think he probably plays guard at the next level. I don't know if he's going to play tackle. I like him, but not as like a top 40 or 50 pick. Late 2nd round, sure, I would take him. But he's nasty. He plays with an edge.
It reminds me of Matt Bergeron, because I think that's the same question too, is will he be a tackle or will he be a guard? Like, I think that he might be someone that ends up also who plays guard. Yeah. Like, he's another one that is kind of like questionable. I wonder what Dom C has to say about that. But I've seen people question whether Bergeron will be a tackle or not.
Yeah, a lot of people not too high on Bergeron. And remember, Mock is a 6-year senior. He's like 25 years old already. And we're still hearing talks about, his pass protection needing a little bit of refinery. I mean, he still has great raw power for sure, but it sounds like he still needs a little bit of shoring up with his technique. And for somebody at 25 years old, and he still needs a little bit more polish on his game, I don't know. I think he'll be a fine pick at day 2 or day 3, but I don't think this is a player who's going to grow. I think how he comes into the league is pretty much how he's going to play, to whatever level that happens to be. Could Cody Mock play center? That's I don't know. I don't know about that one, but
I haven't heard that.
Know. He's better as a run protector than he is a pass protector. I think he had a 90.1 grade in run blocking this past fall. So that's pretty good. But sorry if that doesn't answer your question. I'm not an expert on tackle versus guard versus center.
Gary Peters wants to know how we get our 3rd pick back. We trade. If we find a trade partner in the 1st round and trade back a little, one of the things we get back in return might be a 3rd rounder. Hell, we might even do better and get another 2nd rounder.
I mean, I figured with JD's genius, he could have traded Braden Mann and got a 3rd round pick after what he did with Blake Cashman, but that didn't quite happen.
No, yeah. I was holding out hope, but I don't see how anyone could have given up a pick for Braden Mann, although I didn't think you were getting a pick for Blake Cashman, so what do I know?
No. I still remember being in this dive bar. This was on the Jets bye week, hanging out with I think we're hanging out with the Browns fans over here in Virginia. And these TVs, this was like a dive. I mean, the bratwurst sandwich I ordered, I think half of it was like already pre-cooked and the other half was raw. I mean, it was just a nasty, nasty place. But they had all these little like 12, 14-inch TVs. I mean, tiny TVs. and they had, I don't know who Houston was playing, but I remember seeing like, wait, 50 Cashman, what? And then I saw him knock down the quarterback. I'm like, did Blake Cashman get a sack? And he's walking afterwards? I'm like, wait a second, is this like a time machine that I'm looking at right now? So I actually felt good for Cashman that he actually had a decent season where he stayed somewhat healthy, because he never did anything wrong. It's just he couldn't stay on the freaking field. I mean, we did a whole video, like the whole saga of Blake Cashman, breaking down all the injuries, and it had to be a long video to get all of the information in there.
It's a long scroll down that list.
Long scroll down it was. Dane, what player have you seen mocked to us a lot at 13? Would you rather opt to trade down instead?
I think the one that I've seen the most has been Broderick Jones, mocked to the Jets. But I'd be okay with that. I would stay there and take him.
I mean, if you like Broderick Jones, you better grab him there, because there's a great chance New England will take him if you trade down.
Yep.
Exactly.
But if we think about who has been mocked to the Jets at this spot, it's really been Broderick, Paris, Skoronski. Outside of that, it's been JSN. Who else has been really mocked to the Jets with the 13th pick? I can't think of too many other guys.
Oh, he's saying, who are you poo-pooing? Who would you, instead of taking the guy, would you rather trade down? Well, I'll say if Broderick Jones, I mean, to me, if Jones and Paris are gone, I don't know that I want Stromkowski. I love him as a player. I love him. But the fact that he might end up being a guard and he might not be as good an NFL tackle, I think I'd rather trade down and get like a guy like Darnell White or the other one, Antoine. Like
Antoine Harrison.
Yeah, Antoine Harrison. Like, I think I would rather make a move like that and then get that second, third rounder back, maybe get a second rounder next year that we could use to help, whatever we're going to give away next year's draft for Rodgers. Like, I'd rather see something like that happen and get a Darnell White than take a guy who might really be meant to be an elite guard in the NFL and just an okay tackle.
I think for myself, I would not be thrilled with drafting a wide receiver in the first round. I just don't think that's what makes sense for this team right now. I still feel the need to add a starting defensive lineman, to add at least one starting offensive lineman and potentially two. And I feel like you can get a good wide receiver a little bit later on. I'm all for getting like a project. If Aaron Rodgers is coming here, and I keep saying this, he's going to make okay receivers look good. Think about all the no-name receivers he threw touchdowns to, while he was in Green Bay. I mean, if anybody's going to get anything out of Denzel Mims, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. So if we're going to wait for a little while to get a wide receiver and we get the kid from Princeton, Andre, the kid from Princeton, if we're going to get Bryce Ford Wheaton, Puka Nacua, Tank Dell, guys like that, I got confidence that Rodgers can make very good. Rodgers does not need the best receivers to be a great quarterback. And he's already got a pretty freaking good core with this team right now. Lazard, Davis, Hardeman, and number 17, who's soon going to be number 5 for whatever reason. But I'm ready to go to war with this wide receiver group. And for people who are also saying, I've seen some people say before, you really, in this NFL, you need the 2 wide receiver combo, like Miami has. Well, I don't think Kansas City had the greatest 1-2 punch at wide receiver, and they still won a Super Bowl. Granted, they had maybe the best receiving tight end of all time, but there's more than one way to skin the cat. Well, I'm going to shut up because I think Jeremy has a job to do right now.
Yeah, I just want to say, hey, I don't know if you know this, O'Leary. I got a surprise for you, because I don't know if you've ever been on with this guy, but I think it's time. I think if you haven't been on with this guy, it's time that you've been on with this guy, and he's got an opportunity to talk to you too. This is the greatest work from home Jets content provider in the world. Go.
More stay-at-home dad than work from home. But me and Matt's been on my channel.
We
what mid-season? Yeah, we did mid-season superlatives last year. It was a good time.
I'm sorry, but anytime I talk about anytime I talk about Pete Skoronsky,
There it is, the first time ever.
Sprint to the podium.
It's not
I
even
know
about the players.
I know that I can't say anything about him without bringing on Tigo to get his perspective.
I love Skoronsky. Even if he's there at 13, do I think the Jets take him? No. Like, I don't know. I just don't see him playing tackle at the next level with those arms. I love this kid. I really, really do. He is arguably like my second favorite player in this draft. And that being said, we already have him in AVT. And I don't know if taking another AVT right now is the way to go.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? Because that's the perfect comp is AVT, and you already have one, and like you're gonna play them both at guard. I don't know.
If we didn't restructure Lakin, I'm all for it. I'd be all for it. You bump AVT out to right tackle for 1 year, and then you get rid of Dwayne or you get rid of Lakin next year. You move AVT back to left guard, and now I know I'm much higher on him, but I would totally feel cool with like a left tackle, right tackle of Mekhi Becton and Max Mitchell. Like I think that and then you go Mekhi, AVT, insert rookie center or second year center at this point here, Peter Skoronsky and Max Mitchell. Like that's a great offensive line of all young guys who aren't making anything worth of money at all, and like go win a Super Bowl with that offensive line. But is that really the move? Probably not. It's the same thing with wide receiver. Like people have really gone in on the fact that like, oh, we got to take a wide receiver at 13. I was like, guys, just because we were interested in a wide receiver doesn't mean that it's like this massive need. It was a luxury pick. 13 needs to be a need.
Yeah. Matt, what were your thoughts on Beckham? Were you willing to bring him in? Let's just say for the right price.
Not really. I didn't really want Odell Beckham, just because there's a ton of risk. The guy's tore his ACL twice in the last 3 years, and I would have rathered, like if it was Odell or keep Elijah Moore, I would have rather kept Elijah Moore. But I do think they need to pivot and bring another receiver in because I don't think Corey Davis will be here. But I'm not the biggest Odell fan. I think it would have been a big risk. And one that I wasn't willing to take at that price.
Yeah, when we saw the contract, and Tigo knew. Tigo, I think deep down was kind of hoping that the Jets would sign Beckham because he knew I would have recorded a rant for the ages.
Oh man, it would have been. I would have had it on repeat on loop. It would have been pure. It would have been 6 minutes of pure Adam. The reddest thing on the planet that you can think of, Adam would have been that color. It would have been phenomenal.
Redder than Matt's hair. That's the only way to say it.
I love it. I love it.
It would have been so good.
So yeah, I was very thrilled when it happened. When he did not go, I actually had to pull the car over. I think I was driving back from North Carolina to Virginia. I had like a 3.5 hour drive. I pulled over into a rest stop, and I wish I could have played like "Celebrate Good Times Come On" in the background. I think that would have been flagged for copyright. But yeah, and then when I saw the contract, I'm like, we made the right choice. Yeah, I think we have a quarterback who we still have to fit under the salary cap. So
the Jets are probably going to pick swap with the Packers in the Rodgers deal, in my opinion. So what are we going to do at 15 if that happens? Well, I'll say I think we're going to do the same thing that we're planning to do now. We hope that one of the tackles that we have on our board slip. We hope that if it doesn't happen that way, that there's somebody who wants to trade up, or we just follow our board. I mean, I don't see any other option, but it does change things because yes, New England might take a tackle, even Green Bay could take a tackle, and it could really screw things up for us if we do swap those picks.
And Tennessee likely will take a tackle. Chicago could take a tackle. There's quite a few teams that very well could do it, and
People
that's why
sleeping on Seattle. I think Seattle at 5 interests me so much at the Peter Skoronsky to Seattle at 5.
Oh, okay. And then they would plug him in
Paris or even Paris. If you tell me there are teams that people aren't talking about, but there legitimately could be 4 tackles taken before the Jets get there. Seattle sneakily could take.
I'm sorry,
but play him at guard. They need to fix that offensive line. They need to fix. They were winning games based on the offense, and they need 2 guards really. So Peter Skoronsky is an all-pro guard. There's an option there. The Philadelphia Eagles at 10. If Paris Johnson in there, you could sell me Paris Johnson at right guard for a year while they wait to punt Lane Johnson off of that team. The Bears, there's a lot of teams. The Titans could take a tackle. Hell, the Texans might need to take an offensive lineman. Like, there are so many guys that you could look at. Like, it's hard for me to think that the Jets are going to leave 13, trade back from 13 or anything like that.
Well, if that all happens, then we go Kalijah Kancey. What do you think, Matt?
I'm in. That's what I would do.
Agreed.
Lucas Van Ness falls. Give me Lucas Van Ness.
I mean, look, it's better than reaching. You can't reach. Then you shift position and you take the best player on the board, but you don't reach. You don't take, you don't reach at tackle and take one of the tier 2 guys if they're tier 2 on your board.
That's true.
Agreed. And I got to say, I'm going to be surprised if Arizona actually picks third. If I had to bet on one team making a trade, and actually I'll throw this question out to you guys. If I had to bet on one team making a trade in the first round, I would go with Arizona trading down so another team could come up and get a quarterback, because Arizona just they need everything on that team pretty much. So if you could see one pick being traded, what would it be? Would it be 3 or would it be another one?
I think 3 is a very likely. If I was Arizona, I'd be looking to trade it.
Yeah, 3 makes a ton of sense. I don't know.
What's Houston doing it too?
In
this world,
have to take a quarterback.
Gotta go quarterback, man. Yeah. Got to.
I don't think you do. If you're D'Amico, do you not want to get rid of Caserio? He's not your guy. He's a New England guy who drafts kind of in the reverse of what you have philosophically done for a long time. And there has been a secret sneaking suspicion that Caserio wants to go back to New England because, Bill doesn't have a lot of time left and that he could be the GM of New England. And then you take into consideration that D'Amico apparently is like best friends with the VP of player personnel of San Francisco, and he wants him to be the GM of his football team so that he can build his team right. Like, when you think of all of that and the fact that now Bryce Young might go number 1 overall, and that seems to be the only player they're in love with, if you believe the rumors, I think the only way Arizona leaves 3 is if Houston takes a quarterback at 2. Because if not, let's say Houston takes Will Anderson, let's say Houston takes Jalen Carter, or like they trade out of 2, then 3 becomes less valuable. Because the reason you're coming up to 3 is to get in front of Indianapolis. Well, if Indianapolis is going to be the second team taking a quarterback, well, now you can trade to 5. Now you can trade to 6, which is going to cost less assets than going all the way up to 3.
Interesting.
I'm
just saying the whole draft starts at 2. The whole draft starts at 2.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty much official that Young is going number 1. I think that's why he stopped interviewing with other teams. I think that he was basically told you're the number 1 pick.
I definitely think I definitely concur with that. And I know we did our mock draft. I know I believe you had picked Stroud first. But yeah, I think the reality is, even though Stroud, I know Stroud has the size that Frank Reich typically works with, because he's typically worked with very big quarterbacks, but I think he's going to have to work out a little different offense for Mr. Young down in Charlotte. So, yeah, I'm looking here at the draft order of what the Jets have in front of them. So, Tigo, did you mention the Raiders because that's a team that could use some offensive line help also?
Yeah, the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to go. They're going to try to get a quarterback, and if they can't get a quarterback, I think they're going to go defensive. They're going to the defensive side of the ball with how many studs there are on the defensive side of the ball, and how a couple of these guys might fall. But that's absolutely a possibility too. Again, if a team's going up to 3, though, I think it's Tennessee. I think Tennessee goes to 3.
So if Tennessee goes up to 3, it's for a quarterback.
Yeah.
That would work out great for the Jets because Tennessee is one of the most likely teams to get an offensive tackle. They go up to 3. That is great news for the Jets.
I was thinking the same thing. I hope they trade up for a quarterback. Good on them.
But that also puts the Cardinals in a position where it depends on their grades. Because again, Arizona needs everything, right? So they could also be in the tackle market. Like, there's no winning here at 13. Like, I am almost pissed that it didn't work out because I don't know if you guys remember, but at the end of the season, like, if a couple of things fell our way, we could have had the 10th overall pick.
Yeah.
And if we were at 10, would have sucked to have another top 10 pick after having two top 10 picks last year. But 10 gives us a whole bunch more flexibility because at that point, if you need the tackle and you're scared that somebody's coming up for a tackle, you can make that move and it won't cost you a bunch. Like from 10 to 7 isn't going to cost you that much, you know, but 13 to 7, that's too rich for my blood. And so like, it sucks that that's the way that things went. The good thing is that I am legitimately okay with 5 of the offensive tackles at 13. I will take any of those 5.
The bottom line is this: there were 6 teams last year that finished with a 7-10 record, and of that, the Jets had the toughest strength of schedule. The Jets, if we go back, had the second hardest strength of schedule in the National Football League. And going into that season, we didn't think the Jets had the hardest schedule to deal with. It turns out they really did, and that's why instead of finishing potentially 8, and they finished with the same record as the Falcons, who were picking 8. Instead, the Jets are the Jets are picking 13. It's all about strength of schedule, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just our lives.
When you play in a great division, stuff like that happens. So.
Yep. It's a bummer, but it is what it is. I mean, another way to look at it is if we had the 10th pick instead, that swap instead of 13 and 15 with Green Bay, swapping 10 and 15 is so much more powerful that it could have counted as this year, and then next year was some kind of pick. You know what I mean? Instead of giving a second, like it's that big of a deal because it would have been that much of a bigger jump. That would have helped us. Like that could have been more realistic as all we give up this year if we do a deal is swap 10 and 15, and that would have been nice too because then we get to keep both of our second round picks.
That's true. That would have been a major win if that was the case. Because you're right, the 10 to 15 drop is significant. Where the 13 to 15 is, that doesn't really. I mean, it's a difference, but it's not nearly the same as a 5-pick swing into the top 10.
And the biggest problem is if you look at it from 10 to 15, the teams that would be picking 11, 12, 13, and 14, if we literally just did that swap of those schedules, those teams are more likely to be interested in a player because like Atlanta would be picking behind us in this scenario. Houston would be picking behind us in this scenario. And we all kind of know what Green Bay wants at 15. We all know why they want to come up to 13. It's for JSN. That's it. They are in desperate want for JSN. They need a wide receiver in a big way. But going from 15 to 10 gives us that flexibility because outside of what the Falcons, I don't think that there's a team that would take a wide receiver higher than in that top 10, right? Like,
do you think there's a chance? Do you think there's a chance that nobody knows this except Green Bay and the Jets that they have a deal in place and it's just filled with contingencies like that? Like when the draft happens, if JSN is still there at this point and our tackle, there's more than 2 tackles left at that point, then we swap with you. If not, we don't swap that. Instead, we give you a second round pick. Do you think it's all worked out possibly? And it's just depends on a lot of contingencies of how the draft goes on Thursday night. Is that possible?
Not realistic. Because and here's why. I think the conversation would be when the pick is because the teams know what the pick is at 12 before the fans do and everybody else does, right? Because they have the NFL back room. And so what you do is you can say, hey, we're eyeing a certain player at 13. And if you're willing to do this trade package, let's revisit this at 13. You don't want to give away your draft strategy at all. Because then if you're the Jets, right, and you're dead set on not giving up 13, you can now start leaking. Like if you're a scumbag, like you can now start leaking that Green Bay is all in on JSN. And now a team like the Buffalo Bills, the Chargers, the Ravens, possibly the Giants might start looking at coming up to 12. And Houston's a dumpster fire and they need as many picks as possible. And they would be more than happy to have 3 first-round picks next year, you know, in a year where the quarterback class is going to be elite. So, like, I think those conversations are in place where you go, hey, you guys have 13. We're interested in 13. When the 12th pick comes in, let's get on the phone. Let's hash this out. Let's see if this is the deal that's working. And the Jets can evaluate their board, and then the Packers can evaluate their board. and come to a predetermined trade. But you don't release the players that you're interested in to another team. Can't do that.
Right. No, I wouldn't think that. Well, I mean, I don't. Yeah, you're right because you'd have to tell each other probably the players. Matt, what do you think? Would Zach Wilson be the number one draft pick or the height? Would he be the guy if it was this year?
In terms of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think he would have a chance. I think he'd be in that same conversation with Young and Stroud. I think I'd group all those guys pretty close together. I like Stroud more than Young, which I know a lot of people like prefer. Well, apparently Tigo does as well, and apparently Jeremy does. Okay, so maybe I should say that because apparently more are on my side with liking Stroud. But I would say in that same tier, and you could maybe make a case that he could be the first one.
I think you'd be hands down the number one pick.
I want to thank you.
I would agree. Raw ability, I would say so too.
Yeah, you'd be hands
and
down.
thanks for the super chat, Ron. We
Thanks,
super appreciate it.
Now, does Carolina come up like probably actually Frank Reich with Zach Wilson? Can you imagine? That's like a match made in heaven. We were all
that would have been very interesting to see if it could have happened. I think that put it this way, I'll take my chance with if I'm a quarterback, I'll take Frank Reich over Rob Calabrese and Michael LaFleur coaching me. Yeah, I know that much.
Yep.
Nathan Colgrove, good night, everybody. Nathan, good to see you. Sleep well, man. Okay. Let's go back to this one. Dan Hobbs, thoughts on the Lions potentially taking a quarterback? Well, you know what? They've got, I believe, the 6th pick, and I want to say the 18 picks. So, they've got some ammo to work with. And if they're not committed to Jared Goff long term, I mean, they got a team that's pretty ready. They got a heck of an offense. There really isn't anything that they're really missing. Now, they could stand to upgrade the defense, I think, in a couple different spots. If I'm the Lions, I'm focusing a little bit more on upgrading that defense more than I am taking a quarterback.
I don't see them giving up on Goff. This coach needs to win and keep winning games and keep the momentum. You're not going to start over with a rookie quarterback. Goff played well enough that you just keep making the team better, and you go with Goff. And if he can't do it, then you worry about that down the road.
And the NFC North is getting weaker with Aaron leaving, and the Vikings seem to be in the middle of a relatively weird transition period in their team. Like, are they good? Are they bad? Like, was last year just them being a bunch of frauds? What is Kirk Cousins?
It's an identity search.
Yeah, like that's the perfect word for it. And I think the Lions are a team that might trade out, like at 6, if a quarterback is still there, if Jalen Carter is still there, like that might be a team that might want to get a first-round pick in next year's draft. Because I'm going to keep going back to this. I don't like any of these quarterbacks right now as much as I like all of the quarterbacks from next year. If you can move up, Arizona is going to be picking number 1 overall next year, right? So that pick's going to be for sale. So like if you're the Lions, do you take the extra first rounder next year and to do all that stuff to build up ammo to go up to 1 for Arizona? I would say so.
All right, Snowball, Trey Lance, anyone?
No.
Texans.
No.
Texans.
They would. If any team would do it, Trey Lance would. Yeah, that would make sense.
Give up like a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick for Trey Lance. You can convince a fan base, hey, we're going to do the Trey Lance experience. And when it sputters out and fails, boom, Caleb Williams or Drake May at 2.
Yeah. I want to remind everybody before they go tonight, because some people are going to bed, just let you know, Sunday night, Dom C and I got a special show on Sunday night. We're bringing back from last year a concept that was super, super popular. We're going to go over some potential Jets draft picks and some player analysis, but we're going to follow it up with the Wheel of Chaos mock draft. So I don't know how many of you were there last year, but we have this wheel that we spin that determines how we decide our picks and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it was a lot of fun last year. So we're bringing back the Wheel of Chaos on Sunday night, and that'll start at 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Well, I will be tuning in for that. Oh, Matt, I'll throw a question out. So the schedule is still yet to come out. Now, I've got a pretty good feeling the Jets will be on NBC for the first time since the butt fumble game. I got a feeling, and that is true, by the way. I have a feeling there'll be some primetime games. Now, let's make you the schedule maker here. If you were to give the Jets a Sunday night game on NBC, who would the opponent be of the teams that are going to be on the schedule? Who would you pit the Sunday night game against, and who would you put a Monday night game against?
Oh, okay. So Monday, I want the Monday night game to be week 1, Jets Giants for September 11th in New York. I think that'd be a really cool way to, honor the day. I think it'd be, a huge deal. That'd be really cool to see. For Sunday night, that's a tough one. Maybe New England. So we could dick them around a little bit on Sunday Night Football in front of a national audience.
I got a feeling there'd be some pretty good about, because we got the Chiefs. I'm just very intrigued about Rodgers against Mahomes. I could see that being a marquee game.
Took my answer. I think we're gonna get the max primetime games this year, and I think you're right. I think we get the Monday game against the Giants. I think we get a Sunday night game against Kansas City, and I think we're getting the Thanksgiving game against Dallas.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. I want Dallas on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And then you give us, those are the 3, right? Like your Thursday or Monday or Sunday. And then we get 2 more, not including flex. And those 2 are probably the Bills and then Philly, probably. Remember, we got to play Philly this year. There's a ton of like late in the season. If we're playing the Chargers, that could get flexed to Sunday night. Miami.
I mean, even the Jets going to Vegas. I mean, why not? I mean, that has a little bit of intrigue to it. I mean, since there was like a little bit of that connection. We need to get into a random argument like Green Bean did. Maybe that'll be on the Wheel of Chaos. Who knows? Just like random argument, give us a topic and go. I don't know.
Well, I could do on the Wheel of Chaos. I could do an argument with Green Bean and just bring him in and just pick a fight with him and have an argument with him.
What do you guys argue the most about?
You want the easiest way to start an argument with Green Bean? You just look at him and you say, "It's pork roll, egg, and cheese on a roll." That's all you gotta say. That's all you gotta say.
Yesterday's argument on the panel about the robots on the game in baseball had me. I was up in arms. I was ready to go to war against Green Bean with you guys.
He went full old man yelling at the cloud yesterday.
Oh man, I don't like the pitch clock is too long. I want 8 seconds between pitches. Get robots back there. That's a joke, right? But like I'm when it comes to baseball, I've got some crazy ideas on how you fix baseball.
I'll tell you, that rule with the clock would have destroyed the career of this pitcher from the 80s that pitched for the Cubs. His name was Rick Sutcliffe.
Yep.
His career would have been destroyed because this guy took 5 minutes between every pitch.
2 words: Steve Traxel. Mets fans, we know exactly what I'm talking about. The human rain delay.
I got stuck at way too many Steve Traxel starts at Shea Stadium.
What took longer, the game or the drive from Long Island to MetLife Stadium? I think it's pretty much a dead heat.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, pretty even actually. Both about 4 hours.
I would. With baseball, I've got a lot of crazy. I'm moving the mound back like 2 or 3 feet. I'm doing a bunch of stuff.
I'm sure the players union will. Yeah, they'll be in favor of that one. Yeah.
Oh, screw the players union.
Screw the umpires, especially after the crap we saw today with the sticky. Legalize all the sticky stuff already. I mean, come on. How about these umpires learn to actually figure out what an actual strike is, rather than measuring the level of stickiness inside of a glove? Are we kidding? Are we kidding with this? Oh boy.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Addressing problems that don't exist and ignoring the ones that do exist. It's just crazy.
Is that the MLB's new motto?
I think so.
I don't know. They're gonna have to pay me. They could have it, but they got to pay me first.
At least the Mets won today, O'Leary, so it wasn't a complete fiasco.
They won, but
thank God. That could have gotten rough.
Oh.
Yeah,
we did it.
I was worried because I didn't see it. I just looked at the box score and saw that Scherzer was out and so early, and I texted Adam in a panic. I was like, "Is he hurt? Is he hurt?" He was like, "No, he was thrown out." I said, "Oh, good."
Oh, good.
After 3 innings, I was just glad they beat Syndergaard because I don't know how well I could have handled Syndergaard after purposely ducking the Mets last year. Let's be honest. They rearranged the whole rotation so he wouldn't be there. And the fact that they actually did Brandon Nimmo 5 for 5. I love that guy. How his jersey is still not for sale on the Mets website is a joke. It should be right up there with Lindor and Alonso and Scherzer. He is that good. And to see him become as good as he has, man, oh man, that's like a guy I can attach myself to. He's just that good, a person and a player. I mean, that's the kind of guy you're proud to have him on your team, but if he's not on your team, his smile has to annoy the hell out of you. That's the only way I can say it.
Glad he's on our team.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Worth every penny of the contract.
Matt, before you get out of here, right? I got one question.
Yes.
And I like asking this question whenever I have guests on and stuff like that. Quinnen's contract, it's happening eventually. What's the contract?
Oh, I think I like nice round numbers, 4 for $100, $25 million a year, something right around that. I think it's gonna be 23 to 25 million per year. Maybe it gets to a fifth year, but I don't think it does. I'm gonna say 4 for 100, 25 million a year. Nice raise for him. He deserves it. It's time they pay their homegrown talent.
Okay, so if it's 100 million, how much of that is guaranteed?
65.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 65, 70, something like that, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
it probably makes the most sense.
And somehow, with the way these contracts work, it'll be a cap hit of like $3 million in the first year. I mean, I don't know how these GMs do this, but somehow the cap hit's like $3 million on a $25 million annual salary. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
I've been going back and forth with the over the cap guy, Jason, and I've learned so much about the cap and the shenaniganery. Like, if we were to re-sign Quinnen, expect his cap number in this year to be under $10 million. He's going to have like a $7 million cap hit this year, and it's just to save us money. And then it's going to explode next year, and then you're going to do the magic trick, right? You're going to convert salary into bonus and put 3 void years on the back end so that you don't give a crap. And the cap's going to explode anyway, but I think the deal is 104, so it's 26 a year.
Okay, guys, we're gonna wrap up the show. I want to thank everybody in the chat for being here tonight. It was a great night. Tons of activity in the chat, tons of talking. I want to thank Matt O'Leary. It is always like freaking amazing to have you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it. It's dead season, so you saved the show tonight because it's hard this time of year to get people to watch.
Anytime, guys. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it.
Right. Yeah. Tigo, thanks for jumping on. Adam, as always, greatest co-host in the world, man. Thank you so much. And everybody in the chat, you guys make this worth the whole thing. So thanks, everybody. We'll be tomorrow, Thursday, thick of it. Me and Adam will be around backstage with Green Bean. Sunday, me and Dom will be back. I know Tigo goes on Friday night.
Yep, 9:30.
So, Talking Jets with Tigo.
Yeah, Nick's doing a show Friday at 8:30, right?
Yep. And New York Sports Wikimedia coming out with tons of videos now for the Rangers, for the Knicks, for the Mets, and the Jets. So make sure you're subscribed.
Like I said, I even did an Islanders preview. So just
thank you.
Yeah, just out of respect, and did not do the Nets because let's be honest, they don't have a chance in the series.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, Nick.
Appreciate it, everybody. Take care. Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh, my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh, my God. They don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver? Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh, my God. No edge. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Yuli, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary. They didn't take Dean. We traded up. We can get the Kobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy.
Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge